Right now, you're probably drunk, or at least thinking about it. And the last time you had a drink, beer, wine, whatever, you probably just knocked it back and forgot about it. But here's the thing. What you did is one of the oldest things a human being can do. Older than writing, older than farming, older than the wheel, older than cities, older than almost everything we think of as civilization. It actually predates human beings entirely. So today we're going back, all the way back, to figure out where this thing actually started and why the answer changes everything we think we know about how humans built the world. Our relationship with alcohol doesn't start a few thousand years ago with the invention of wine or the first brewery. It starts about 10 million years ago, on a forest floor in Africa, with a small primate picking up a piece of fruit that had been sitting on the ground for too long. In 2014, a biologist at UC Berkeley named Robert Dudley published a book called The Drunken Monkey. His argument was surprisingly simple. When fruit falls from a tree and sits on the ground, the natural sugars inside start breaking down. Yeast gets in, fermentation begins, and the fruit starts producing small amounts of ethanol, the same molecule in every drink you've ever had. When primates ate that fruit, the ethanol made them feel a little drunk. They had no idea why. But it felt good, so they kept coming back for more. And here's the key part. Dudley argues that the smell of ethanol, that faint boozy sweetness, was actually a useful signal. It meant the fruit was ripe, calorie-dense, and ready to eat. Over millions of years, our ancestors didn't just tolerate alcohol, they evolved to seek it out. So by the time anatomically modern humans actually arrived on the scene, the taste for it was already hardwired in. It was there long before anyone figured out how to make it on purpose. The question then is, when did humans actually figure out how to make it deliberately? In 2018, archaeologists excavating a cave called Rakafit near Haifa, Israel, made a discovery that rewrote the timeline. Inside the cave, they found stone mortars, basins carved directly into the bedrock. When scientists analyzed the residue left inside those mortars, they found traces of wheat and barley that had been soaked, allowed to germinate, and left to ferment. That is beer, brewed in a cave 13,000 years ago. Now here's the part that matters. The people who made that beer, a group called the Natufians, were not farmers. Agriculture had not been invented yet. They were still collecting wild grain by hand, hunting animals for food, and moving with the seasons. They didn't grow the barley. They found it in the wild, carried it back to this cave, and turned it into beer. Up until this discovery, the accepted story as alcohol went something like this. Humans settled down, started farming, built villages, and then at some point later figured out fermentation. Alcohol was a byproduct of civilization. Rakafet Cave turned that story inside out. These people were brewing while they were still nomadic, which raises an obvious question. Why? And the Natufians weren't alone. Around the same era, about 1,000 years later, something even stranger was happening about 1,200 kilometers to the north, in what is now southeastern Turkey. At a site called Göbekli Tepe, someone built something enormous. Massive stone pillars, some weighing over 10 tons, were hauled into place, arranged in careful circles, and carved with intricate images of animals: foxes, vultures, scorpions, lions. The precision and the scale are staggering. And this was built before farming, before pottery, before anyone in the region had a permanent address. The people who built it were still hunter-gatherers. For decades, archaeologists couldn't explain it. What force could motivate nomadic people to coordinate the labor required to move 10-ton stones up a hill? What were they getting out of it? Then they found the vats, large stone containers at the site. When researchers analyzed the residue inside them, they found the chemical signatures of fermented grain. People weren't just visiting Göbekli Tepe, they were brewing there, and not in small quantities, enough to serve large crowds. The working theory today is that this wasn't a settlement, it was a gathering place, a venue for ritual, ceremony, and communal feasting. People traveled from across the region, came together at this site, and drank. And the prospect of that gathering may have been exactly what motivated the construction in the first place. Which brings us to one of the most debated questions in archaeology. Why did humans start farming? The standard answer is survival. Farming produces more reliable food, more calories, better security. It's the rational choice. and that's probably part of the story. But an archaeobotanist named Patrick McGovern, arguably the world's leading expert on ancient alcohol, has spent decades making a different argument. Humans didn't start farming to make bread. They started farming to make beer. His reasoning: bread requires grinding, kneading, and baking, a multi-step process. Beer is simpler. You soak grain in water, leave it alone, and fermentation happens by itself. Yeast does the work. And critically, the desire to keep drinking was a stronger motivator than the desire to eat grain in a slightly different form. If he's right, and the evidence from Rakafet and Göbekli Tepe supports him, then alcohol didn't emerge after humans settled down. It may be the very reason they chose to settle down at all. By 7000 BCE, the evidence gets even more precise. In a Neolithic village called Jiahu in central China, archaeologists found pottery jars containing the residue of a fermented drink made from rice, honey, grapes, and hawthorn berries. Chemical analysis confirmed both the ingredients and the fermentation process. This is the oldest confirmed recipe for alcohol anywhere on Earth. And it wasn't crude. It was a blend, 4 distinct ingredients, deliberately chosen and combined. Whoever made this wasn't experimenting. They had technique. They had a process. They knew exactly what they were doing. 9,000 years ago. Fast forward a few thousand years, and the scale of alcohol in human life has become almost impossible to overstate. By the time ancient Egypt was at its height, beer wasn't something people made in their spare time. It was woven into the foundation of the entire society. Workers who built the pyramids were paid in beer, approximately 4 to 5 liters per person per day. That was their salary. Not coins, not even grain. Beer. And there was a very practical reason for this. Water from the Nile was frequently contaminated. Drinking it directly was a real health risk. But beer, because of the fermentation process, the heat involved, and the alcohol content, was reliably safer. It kept the workforce alive in a way that the river water couldn't. Now, honestly, if you were hauling limestone blocks across the desert in 40-degree heat, and someone offered you a bag of coins versus 5 liters of cold beer, what are you taking? Yeah, same. Beyond hydration, the fermentation process added B vitamins and extra calories, critical fuel for a workforce doing brutal physical labor. Beer wasn't just a drink. For pyramid builders, it was practically a meal. And then there was the religious dimension. The Egyptians credited the god Osiris with creating beer and gifting it to humanity. It appeared in temple offerings, burial ceremonies, and medical prescriptions. Physicians would infuse herbs into beer and prescribe it for stomach ailments, infections, pain. One substance was simultaneously serving as a paycheck, a water filter, a source of nutrition, a medicine, and an offering to the gods, all from the same clay jug. So step back and look at the full arc of what we've covered. 10 million years ago, your primate ancestors evolved a biological draw toward fermented fruit. 13,000 years ago, humans were deliberately brewing beer in caves before they knew how to farm. 12,000 years ago, they may have built the first monumental structures in human history as gathering places to drink together. 9,000 years ago, they had refined recipes with multiple ingredients and a mastered technique. 5,000 years ago, entire civilizations were running on it. Alcohol didn't emerge after we built the world. There's a credible evidence-backed argument that it's one of the reasons we built it at all. Every time you have a drink, you're continuing something that started before your species even had a name for itself. The process has changed, the ingredients improved, the cups got fancier, but the impulse is the exact same one that made a small primate reach for a piece of overripe fruit on a forest floor 10 million years ago. We just learned how to make it on purpose. If you want to dig deeper into any of this, all the research, all the sources, linked in the description below. And if this kind of thing interests you, you know what to do.